Do you see clients during pregnancy even if they're not having pain? Do you assess their pelvic floor muscle tightness and their ability to lengthen and push? In today's podcast, I talk about a postpartum client I worked with who was never assessed during pregnancy and ended up having a traumatic birth. Listen in to learn what we really should be assessing in our pregnant clients.
Hello, friends. This is Lynn Schulte, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started.
Hello and welcome to this episode. Today I wanted to share with you a case study because this case study represents what I feel is wrong with the birth practices here in the United States, at least. So it's a perfect example. I find that here in the States, we do a great job of keeping moms alive and babies alive. So we get them through the pregnancy. But what we're missing is any assessment of the pregnant body to make sure that the body can birth the baby. So we're not assessing what I like to call the birth door. And the birth door is the pelvis and the pelvic floor muscles. And this client came to see me. She has a 2-year-old, and she's been trying for 6 months to get pregnant and was not successful. And she's like, well, maybe I need to address the trauma from the first birth. So that's why she came to see me. And she told me about her birth. She tried to do a home birth and had to transfer to the hospital. She got an epidural. She pushed for 7 hours. She said the nurse and the doctor were horrible, and she ended up having a cesarean birth. And she was very disappointed about that. And she also mentions to me, she's like, oh, and when I was a teenager, I fell and I shattered my sacrum. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. And so when I went to assess her, she was also complaining of pain or pulling in her C-section scar and also back pain during her cramps. So there was definitely some restriction going on from her scar tissue, was my guess. And yes, I found that. So when I went to assess her, I started with her sacrum, and I just in supine, I just slid my hand underneath her sacrum and held it. And the sacrum energetically, when I tuned into it energetically, it was pulling up towards her head. And to me, that's a impact trauma. The fall caused upward force towards the head, and that was still being held in her sacrum. And her sacrum just felt hard, especially the lower part of her sacrum, because she was trying to push the baby out for 7 hours. Oh my goodness. So I help to, you know, uh, bring the sacrum back down and get it into a better position, more mobility, and tried to soften the lower part of the sacrum. The tailbone felt like it was off to the right-hand side. The right coccygeus muscle definitely had increased tone in it. This is all externally that I was able to palpate this. And then I went to her uterus and I put my hand on her uterus, and my body got a visceral reaction to connecting in with her uterus. My stomach tightened, and I just got this ugh feeling in my body when I connected into her uterus. And I just asked her, I'm like, so I'm just tuning into your uterus here. What do you sense about your uterus? And she's like, oh yeah, it's not happy. And as I tuned into her uterus, I heard the words, my hands were tied. And I shared this with her, and she was like, oh, of course it was. And I said, oh, your uterus tried so hard to get your baby out, but its hands were just tied. And she was just like, "Oh, that makes so much sense. Yes." And it really brought a lot of release to her body. Her body like softened, everything relaxed, her nervous system kind of settled down a little bit with just that awareness and that understanding. I also found that her uterus was restricted. Her right uterosacral ligament and her right broad ligament were both tight. And I had asked her, was your baby held on, did your baby only hang out on the right side of your belly? And she's like, "Oh, I don't remember." And I'm betting that it did. And so tightness in her uterine and round ligaments, definitely one of the core areas that I love to assess in my pregnant clients. And sacrum hard, so that's another core area. And then when I went internally so I helped her uterus. Actually, her uterus was is still stuck in that birth. And the uterus did not know that the baby was out and that the labor was over. So I did the trauma release statement with her, and I had to repeat that the baby was out, labor is over several times to help get her uterus on board. And I believe there was a limiting belief that we needed to shift in that too. And that helped the uterus to like relax and to soften again. And I've seen this several times in my practice that when a uterus is still trying to birth or still thinks that it's pregnant, it can't get pregnant again. So getting this cleared out, I'm so glad she came to me, can really help, hopefully, with her fertility. And I haven't heard from her yet to know if she got pregnant again or not. It's only been a couple of weeks. But so I helped her uterus, helped her sacrum, and then I went internally and checked out her pelvic floor muscles. And they win the award for the second tightest pelvic floor muscles I've ever worked with. I still have this one gal that I've worked with years ago who still wins the award for the tightest, but hers came in second place. They were tight bilaterally. And the muscles were they were thick ropes and just so tight. And they had just the tiniest bit of give. That's why she won second place. The first place gal had no give. And when I asked her, I said, "Can you, without working on the muscle, I'm like, can you even lengthen these muscles?" And when she tried, she contracted them. So she made them tighter. I'm just curious, I'm guessing with the 7 hours of pushing, she was tightening her pelvic floor muscles the entire time. No wonder that baby was never able to come on out. There were three main areas of the body that need to be assessed prior to labor, and all three of hers had issues. And so I was able to tell her, and we were able to work on getting the pelvic floor muscles to release and relax. And then she was able to get some lengthening in her pelvic floor muscles. So it was great. And then I was able to educate her and say, "Okay, look, you've had all these issues in the past. Once you get pregnant again, please make sure you come back in and let me reassess what's going on in your body prior to you going into labor. And that way we're going to be able to help you to have a much better, smoother labor next time." And I truly believe that she would be able to have a VBAC. So I'm so grateful that she was able to come in, but it just really, it saddens me that there's pregnant people out there that aren't getting their bodies assessed prior to birth, and they're having these extremely long labors, when if we could assess them and help release and create space and balance in the belly for baby to get into the best position possible, we can release any tension in the bones of the pelvis and the pelvic floor muscles, and most importantly, help someone learn how to push. Too many women, when they go to push, are tightening their pelvic floor muscles versus relaxing it. So this is something that we need to be practicing with our pregnant clients and helping them to figure out how to do it in all positions. And that is what I cover in my holistic treatment of the pregnant body course. You learn how to assess the uterine mobility, the uterine ligaments, how to release those ligaments to create space for babies. It's amazing how much the belly of a pregnant person changes when you have round ligament tightness and you release it. And babies can go, the bellies look like they're going side to side. You release those round ligaments and then the belly starts going up and down. So just incredible, the changes that can be made with releasing those ligaments. You learn how to work with the pelvic bones so that you can release any restrictions in those pelvic bones, and then also learn how to release the pelvic floor muscles and learn how to help your client push effectively in all different positions. So I teach a little process of how to turn your client and remain internal, and we practice that in a live course. And so if you are interested in learning about this pregnancy course, we are having our first live cohort that will start May 6th. And this cohort, you will be in a group of students, all starting at the same time, all ending at the same time. I'm going to offer a couple of group calls throughout the process to encourage you to get through the material. You need to get through the certain amount of material for the first call, another amount of material for the second call, and we'll most likely do 3, if not 4 calls during that cohort, and we'll have it all planned out for you. You can check it out on my website, and you'll also get emails to support you in your processing, getting through the material, because I know it's so easy to buy an online course and then just let it sit there. But we're going to give you deadlines to make sure that you get the material done by those deadlines so that you get through the material, and the calls will be the deadlines. So I encourage you, if you need that support, please join us for this pregnancy cohort. And we will be starting, registration will open for that cohort at the end of April. So be looking for that, okay? And you'll be able to get online with me with those group calls, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you have as you're going through that material. And we have a forum in our website where you can ask questions in the forum as well, and you can get other people's responses to it, and mine as well. So we really want to support you to get through the material so that you don't just buy an online course and let it sit on your computer. We want you to learn this material and get it in your hands so you can make more effective change in your pregnant clients and help support them in a smoother, shorter birth. Because that's what all this creating space and balance, getting baby in the best position possible, making sure those pelvic floor muscles can lengthen, and the energetics of that. I teach you about that as well, making sure all of that is on track for your clients so that they can have that smoother birth. So please reach out if you have any questions about the holistic treatment of the pregnant body cohort. I'm happy to answer any of those for you. And please keep doing the beautiful work that you're doing and supporting pregnant and postpartum clients in your practices. And I appreciate you listening into this episode. And here is to smoother births and faster recoveries. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code PODCAST50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn Schulte, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.